Hello and welcome, beautiful creators, back to another Mista Moment. In this Mista Moment, we will be talking about how our words, thoughts, which are the same thing because thoughts are nothing other than our words in our head, are the same, and we need to reach union of our words, thoughts with our emotions and energy because they are one. And our ego keeps them as two. So basically, we have stripped all of our energy from our thoughts and words. We are living in our head, and there's not a whole lot of union with our thoughts and energies. And this has happened mainly because the main ego trap is to conceptualize and figure everything out in our mind. And through doing this, we project our energy, our emotions within as something outside of ourselves. Meaning, if we feel something, we blame it on somebody else. So if we were to look at the emotional scale that has been presented in spiritual circles, by Dr. David Hawkins, we will see that guilt is, I believe, the lowest energy. So that means we are completely asleep to guilt. And if we are running an ego pattern of guilt, we are most definitely not understanding that our words that we use to guilt somebody is nothing other than the projection of our own guilt that we don't want to face within ourselves. So how did we get into that trap? And that is because we've become very masculine dominated, which is mentally dominated. So for us to get there and be strong and not be a sissy with our emotions, we have figured out a way to reject them, and that comes from projecting them onto something outside of ourselves. So we've done this for so long, and now the guilt has become so unconscious, and I'm just using guilt as the example because it is the lowest unconscious energy, that we are completely unconscious to feeling it. So we have no other choice but to blame it outside. None. So let's take an example in my own life. Mom guilt. Mom guilt is intense for me. And I noticed this early on in my awakening, had a very hard time sticking to no with my kids. And so if I would tell them no, instead of feeling my guilt under it, which comes from who knows where in the beginning, but all I know is I don't want to feel that. So then I project out that my kid is making me feel guilty, even though they haven't. They haven't yet, but I'm going to create that with my energy because we're the creators. So now once I project that guilt onto my child for saying no, and then I'm staying in my head, I don't even feel the projection of my guilt, they're going to react with trying to guilt me because we're one. So I've activated that energy, I projected it out into them. Now they're going to react with giving me reasons to feel even more guilty. And now we're in a quantum ego entanglement of my guilt pattern that I run, and I call now mom guilt, with my kids. It's not serving me to not just face my own guilt and sit in it and stick to no, whatever it is, and then allowing my child to run their usual part of the pattern and just sit in a state of being of love to alchemize and neutralize that pattern. So we create our reality through the energy, and so I will always, well, not anymore, but I'm making the example, have this pattern running between myself and my kids. Me saying no, it being an argument. I mean, I'm making light of it and I'm not deeply, but I want you to understand that I understood my guilt and sitting in mom guilt. Oh, that's hell. The momentum of that pattern is hell. So to sit in it is facing a crossroads in myself. Do I want to choose guilt or do I want to choose love? So I have to stop projecting it out, say no, sit in the guilt, shift it to love inside myself, which is very challenging for people who don't even understand that there is an emotional energy war going on within themselves that they have the power to shift. So just one example. So what happens when I sit in my guilt? How do I raise it to a higher state of being? And that's none other than using some of the catalysts like Jesus described, or you can see from the consciousness scale. You have to shift it within yourself to something higher than what it is. And this is talked about in Law of Attraction as well, with Abraham saying, reach for a better feeling thought. Or Neville Goddard, imagine something better until you feel better. And for me, as a follower of Jesus and what he tries to teach, his alchemizing energies that he uses in words is acceptance, gratitude, and forgiveness. So basically, if I feel myself say no to my child and I feel the guilt inside, I forgive myself for whatever it is. Because once I start doing that, even if it's just mentally, eventually you'll start feeling something break. And then you'll be like, oh, there's the energy, the emotion of forgiveness. And so that's what this video is about, trying to guide you back to the energies under the words. Because words are nothing other than energy, but we've become so mentally dominated we don't feel. And this is the only way back to love, is to understand that everything within us is there and it cannot be destroyed. It can only be changed. Energy is never destroyed. It can only be alchemized back to a different state of being. And we want to get to the state of being of love, which is also just another word, a concept. So until you actually feel that state of being within yourself, which is described as peace and joy and love, you won't really understand. And that's what, again, what this whole video is about. We don't fully feel these different energies that are words within ourselves. They're separate now. And so I'm trying to guide you back, because then once you get this emotional intelligence, this emotional maturity, and you can tell when you look at an emotionally immature person, they're not understanding they create their reality. Now think about that, because they're not emotionally in tune with their energy inside themselves. So it's running unconsciously, and there's nothing you can do to change that except for what I'm teaching here or some other teacher of love. And I'm talking about true teachings, not an outer thing. This is an inner thing. You have to get in touch with these energies and pay attention to your words and what you're trying to place outside of yourself and blame. Use the words to understand what energy is going on inside. And until you get back to a state of love, which has no contrast, no duality, no outer, it's all inside, you have to work on this. You have to use these other energies to get you there, to shift you there, to alchemize the lower energies. So in awakening, the number one ego trap to me, well, there's many ego traps, but this is a big one, is the empath. So as a word, empathy, and to be empathetic to somebody just means that you understand where they're coming from, and you use that as a tool to be more understanding and accepting of another. But we've taken this to a whole new level. Now empathy means that I feel your energy and emotions and you're fucking me up. And then the empath takes it one step further and says, because I'm an empath and I am so powerful and I feel others' emotions and I take them on, that now all I attract is the broken and the wounded. And they call that the narcissist. And so let's just go back to understanding that we attract what we are, and everything is energy, and only things that resonate or that are like us, like attracts like. Everything we judge is brought back to us in equal measure, as Jesus says it. So we're really just attracting what we are, and the empath and the narcissist are the exact same thing, polarized in duality. So the mental concept, empath and narcissist, are a million miles apart, but the energy pattern underneath it is the same. And that is seeking outer validation instead of going within and feeling what you're doing. So the empath feels a lower emotion and projects it out, and they always attract a narcissist so that they have somebody to place their guilt on. And the narcissist attracts the empath so that they have somebody to make them feel good so they don't have to feel their guilt. So very dysfunctional, but yet very perfect. So then how they flip their duality is then the narcissist gets the high off of the empath's low. And then once the empath starts pulling back and starts going back up, then the narcissist starts to go down low because they're not getting it. And so then the narcissist starts moving towards the empath again energetically. And that gives that empath that sense of validation. And, you know, they've projected their guilt and now they're like feeling better because the narcissist is saying sorry. And then they do the whole pattern over again. So you can see it's the same thing. They're just flipping polarities, and the mental concepts don't pay attention to that. Just pay attention to the fact that whether you're an empath or a narcissist, those are just labels that don't matter. What matters is we're projecting our energy out and we're not accepting it as our own. And until we do that and we sit in our feelings and we shift them within ourselves, this is alchemy. We will never get to the state of being of love and oneness and happiness and true joy, peace, and love. So stop projecting it out. Stop thinking you're an empath. Stop falling for all of these ego mind traps and just sit in these feelings, and you will stop attracting that because you're not that anymore. So when you get into fear or you get into guilt, you use acceptance, forgiveness, and gratitude to stop aligning with them within yourself. There's nothing out there to fix. There's nothing out there to blame. There's nothing. It's just you, all you. Everything is your energy. And that is your true power, because once you start shifting this back to love, we are collectively one. Many start shifting with you, and this is what's happening. People like myself consistently feels the low energy. If I was with y'all, I blamed it on everything outside myself. My hometown, my first love that rejected me. Just anything. My kids guilty me, everything. But then I started to just sit in it, and that's the miracle. You sit in it, you shift it to a higher vibration, and everything outside you matches that. You can't stop attracting a narcissist, mental concept, without stop being an empath, a mental concept. You are projecting guilt out, so you will get somebody that will feed off of that. And vice versa. You're the same. So sit in your guilt. Stop blaming somebody. That feeling is not them. It's you. It's in you. So when you say words like that, pay attention to how you feel inside, because that's the guide, y'all. Your words are guiding you to your energy. Shift it, accept it. It's mine. Forgive myself. It's mine. I'm grateful I finally have consciousness within myself to see my energy. See those 3 words, and then I can feel the shift inside myself, and then I can go back to love. But there's a long way from guilt and fear to enlightenment, as the scale of consciousness shows. So let's just take back the momentum little by little by little, and the only way is to stay within and stop projecting and blaming the outer, even just to blame the whole government or these conspiracies. It's all ego traps to keep you from facing your inner reality, because that's all that matters. Many in the New Age community will preach that we're one and that everything is love and that there's nothing outside of ourselves, and that they're a Freemason, and that they're Gnostic, that they're, all of these things. But all of that leads us to understand that it's all within. It's an inner job, but they're still banging on the screen out there to place blame on these things that they've uncovered in the reality that they can place blame on. We need to take it back. Everything is within everything. So use the inner world as your guidance to why you're attracting the same things, and understand that you're creating it. Not by focusing on the outer, but by focusing on the inner and feeling the lower emotions and using the conduits, the alchemy, to go further up the scale of emotions. And this takes emotional intelligence, so don't focus outside at all. I mean, for me, it was when I finally got it, I was like, all I did was focus on what I was doing within, and that has changed my life. Because I'm the creator. It has no choice but to change. So I hope this really helps you understand. Pay attention to your words and find the energies beneath them. Start using words as Jesus is taught, or that you find in science, to alchemize your lower emotions to better feeling emotions, and start realizing you're the creator, and become in union with your thoughts and your energy. And you will go far. Thank you so very much for watching.